She oversees Nevada's largest animal shelter and took on the role amid controversy. After her predecessor stepped down following complaints against shelter conditions, Hilarie Gray became the new CEO of the Animal Foundation and joins us this week on Nevada Week in Person.
Support for Nevada Week in Person is provided by Senator William H. Hernnstedt and additional supporting sponsors.
Prior to leading the Animal Foundation, one of the highest volume single-site animal shelters in the country, Hilarie Gray worked more than 20 years in public affairs, marketing, and government here in Southern Nevada. Hilarie Gray, thank you for joining us for Nevada Week in Person. First off, how did you become aware of this job and what led you to want to take it?
Well, I've been an animal person my entire life and an advocate, and of course as someone who's lived in Southern Nevada a long time, I followed the Animal Foundation pretty regularly, and they made an incredible transformation over the course of 15 years. I don't think anybody should minimize that. I knew that the longtime CEO was retiring, but didn't really think about it, and I got a recruitment when they were going through the search process. And in addition to my regular job that I was doing at the time, I had actually been on the board of Nevada SPCA that went through a lot of changes where they had dangerous conditions in their shelter. Their executive director stepped down, so they recruited a new board to kind of take them through that whole reclamation process. So I learned a lot, and when this opportunity came around, it's like, maybe things are aligning. I think there's good experience there that I could bring to the table too.
So you already, had experience in revamping or fixing some of the issues within an animal shelter. That's experience not many people
Yeah, we actually moved them to a new space, and so learned all about facility planning and airflow and drainage and all of the things that you need to know to keep animals safe and keep those processes going well.
So then you must have felt pretty confident going into this position.
I mean, it's a large operation. It's a really special place that means a lot to the community. So I was excited about it, but very much going in eyes wide open, as I know that there had been some issues in the community. And like all of the businesses and nonprofits, there have been some changes through the pandemic as well that affected personnel and things like that. And those were the discussions that I had with the board during the recruitment too. But to be able to come in, especially after, and I don't know if you're aware of this, but in December there was an assessment done of the Animal Foundation by Maddie's Pet Project, which is a very well-reputed shelter education and funding agency. And so they already came in with some recommendations for things that we could do to really get up to best practices, very rigorous. So very excited to come in and be able to institute that playbook.
You said eyes wide open you went into this. What did you notice immediately?
Well, the first thing that's a fantastic thing is the heart of all of the team members there. Everybody is there to a person because they love animals, they believe in the mission, they all want to make Las Vegas a more humane community, which I believe is so important to a lot of social issues. Pet issues are social issues, and so that was a lot of the appeal to me. So you have a really good foundation there of people that want to be there, that just need some help to clear obstacles, to work together better, put in place some tighter practices and things like that, customer service principles, just ways that we can work better and serve everybody in the Las Vegas Valley better, focus our resources on the animals that need us the most, and be able to help people on both sides. Somebody said both sides of the leash. I thought this was nice. So people coming in that maybe think that they have no other choice because of their circumstances than to surrender a pet, how can we help them? How can we help keep pets in homes? And then on the other side, when you have an adopter, how do you support them? Help them establish a relationship with a vet, bring them some education and some resources so that they are successful and we don't see that animal back in the shelter. If we can do those things and raise awareness, that's a great mission, and it's one that I'm so excited about.
When you talk about people surrendering their animals, that became an issue. I don't want to say we're post-COVID just yet, but in its aftermath. How so?
It's funny. People were very afraid of that because you probably heard the arc. It was even a story nationally about how people that were working from home or were kind of sheltering in place because of COVID adopted animals. And that is a wonderful thing, that shelters were cleared as a result of that. And everybody was afraid that once the eviction moratoriums were lifted or people went back to work, that animals would be returned to the shelter. Luckily, even nationally, they have not found that that's come true in a big way, so that's a good thing.
Oh, good.
But you do have folks that, because of circumstances, maybe they lost their job, maybe they had to move, find themselves in tough circumstances. And we want folks, because it inspires them and it helps them get through tough times too, when they can keep a pet. So we have this great program, it's called KEPT. It's for keeping every pet and person together. And what we can do is diagnose some of those issues, provide some low-cost vet care if that's what you need. If somebody's like, oh, I can't afford to treat my dog's ear infection or whatever it may be, or if it's someone who is moving and just needs help with a pet deposit or some free pet food, those are things where we've been able to supplement and make a difference so that people can keep their pets at home. And as we move forward, we want to expand those programs and really make them part of everything that we do.
How many months on the job so far?
2.
Okay. What remains to be fixed and what has been fixed?
Well, everything is a process. And so we took a really good look at the assessment that we had. And the good news is the fundamentals are there. We have very strong cleaning protocols. We have good teams. We've had to make some key hires. We have more veterinarians full-time on board with us now, where there were some issues of not just at the shelter, but as the entire community experienced a veterinary shortage. We want our teams to have new processes so that they can work better together, so that people aren't siloed. If you think of an open admission shelter, which the Animal Foundation is kind of like...
Explain what that is.
Yeah, basically it means that we are not a selective shelter like you see, where they can say, you know what, we can't really take in this animal, or we don't have capacity. Everybody comes to us. We have relationships with the 3 municipalities, Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, and Clark County, where when animal control finds a stray or a lost dog, they bring them to the Animal Foundation, and we take all comers. So we do see horrible cases of abuse, sickness, and our commitment is to diagnose, treat, help those animals have their best outcome, to become adoptable and find new homes. So we take that really seriously. So if you think about an analogy as like a public hospital, right? When you're coming in, you want your treatment team to take a look at your path and what is it that you need. So similarly, that's what we're going to be instituting even more strongly at the Animal Foundation, where it's almost like a social work model, where right now at a lot of shelters you see the surrender form, and when people come in, they feel like that's their only choice, that's their automatic path. I'm having trouble, so I'm here to surrender my pet. What we would like to do is set that up in advance, so we're going to have an online appointment system that we're going to be putting into place, where we can get some more information, and it's almost like a consultation. What is your situation? Maybe your dog needs some veterinary care or an analysis that we can set up so that when you're there with your animal, we can make that happen right away and really see what your issues are and how we can help. So that's one thing. And then think of a hospital again, daily population rounds, not just with our veterinary staff, but also with our adoptions team, our behavior team, so that they can take a look at every animal that's with us and talk about how best to deploy our resources so that they have the best possible outcome.
I do think that's a great analogy, like a public hospital. You do get some public funding from tax dollars, also some grants, and I think that's why people hold you accountable.
Well, and I guess I should say, and it's a little bit weedy, but we have contracts with the municipalities, and so essentially what they're funding is what a city like Las Vegas would be statutorily responsible for. So a lot of people don't realize that. So what they pay us for is kind of the 3-day hold that the statutes require them to keep an animal. Of course, anything beyond that, so we're talking about the adoption, the care, the behavior behavior team, play groups, all kinds of enrichment that we do, that all is the private nonprofit that pays for that. And that's why we look to public support, to foundations and grants, as you say, but also many individual donors and kind people in the community that want to make sure that animals can get homes. That's what we're all about.
What are some of the realities of an animal shelter that you think the public may not be aware of?
Well, I think just how big and complex it is. A lot of people just don't realize the scale.
Especially yours.
Right, the scale that we're working at as a regional shelter, which is pretty unusual for one of our size, that we can take in as many as 25,000 animals a year,
wow,
which is a lot. And when you drill down, that's nearly 500 a week.
Mm-hmm.
So that's quite a few animals, and each one, again, is an individual with individual needs. And you don't want animals to stay in the shelter for too long, and so we want to have a lot of coordination with what's going to happen. How can we get them to adoption, to foster? So it's very complex. There's a lot of units to it. We have people that are looking for their lost animals, and we're a part of that. We have, again, confiscations. Think about this: when animal control runs into a situation where someone is in the hospital or has been arrested, we care for their animal for a certain amount of time too. There's a lot of different complex things that happen. We get dangerous animals that have been deemed dangerous by animal control, where they're a bite risk, they're a risk to the community. So there's a lot to it, but there's a lot of heart at the Animal Foundation, and a lot of people working there, and thousands more that volunteer with us, which is fantastic too, that really support the mission. And our next phase is going to be doing even more community outreach and being an even better resource in the community.
How much of an impact do volunteers make, and how big is your need for them?
Volunteers make an incredible impact. We have, and there's all kinds of ways that people can volunteer with us. There are some people that are very dedicated and that have the time to be there every day. I'm thinking of a volunteer that I met on my first day, who she helps with playgroup every single day and is like an orchestra conductor, where they're bringing animals together that they think have similar play styles so that they can see how they do. Everybody gets some exercise. There are folks that like working with the little critters, like the rabbits and guinea pigs.
Which you have a lot of different animals
We
there.
do, yeah. I mean, you think about an open admission shelter, so we have we get farm animals from time to time. We've had pigs in the shelter, peacocks. I understand there was a sheep that was found on Fremont Street once upon a time.
Oh, okay.
Not unusual, but we do see a lot of lizards and snakes and turtles and fish. There was one day, we will typically see about between 20 and 50 adoptions in a day. And there was one day I was looking at the adoption report, and there was 140. And I looked, and a lot of them were individual fish that had been adopted, which I thought was funny.
They must be fancy fish, right?
It's everything. It's from goldfish to tropical fish. You think about the range of people who can't keep their pets, or their situation has changed, or even, sometimes when an owner passes away, and you have a family member that's like, oh my God, they had this huge tropical fish tank. We had a situation right before I started where there was somebody who was illegally transporting these aquatic turtles. There were 80 of them. And so law enforcement caught that person, and the 80 turtles ended up at the Animal Foundation, all got adopted. So it was a fantastic story. But those kinds of things happen too.
We're getting close to running out of time, but your responsibilities are great. Spaying and neutering can help, and also there is another aspect involving kittens right now that you would like people to know about.
Absolutely. We're entering what people refer to as kitten season, where a lot of breeding happens, especially among the feral cat communities. So two things. One, we can use a lot of fosters to take care of kittens, because inevitably we end up with a lot of them. But people may not realize this, because it sounds a little bit counterintuitive. They try to do the right thing because they see kittens out in a neighborhood or in a park area. They don't see the mom right away, and they're like, oh, we should bring them to the Animal Foundation, or we should call animal control. A lot of those times mom is just around the corner, and taking those kittens away from their mother or out of where they're used to is really dangerous for them.